wasn't just a dream. It wasn't random, vague, or meaningless. That image that startled you awake. That feeling that lingered deep in your chest like a whisper you couldn't quite put into words. That was not your imagination. Chosen one. Last night your spirit received a transmission. Heaven sent you a message wrapped in symbols, wrapped in emotion, wrapped in the language of dreams. And you were meant to receive it. You were meant to wake up different. Because something is coming. A shift so powerful that your soul had to be warned in advance. You may not remember every detail. Maybe it felt surreal, even fragmented. Maybe there was water, a door, a voice that wasn't speaking English, but you still understood. Maybe you were running or flying, or standing in a place that didn't make sense on earth, but felt deeply familiar in your spirit. That's the language of heaven impression. Frequency, feeling. God doesn't always speak in full sentences. He speaks in revelation. And you, chosen one, were given a glimpse, because right now, heaven is positioning its warriors, and you are one of them. You've been marked since birth. You've felt it your whole life, the sense that you don't quite fit, that others don't quite see you. You've lived in the in-between, carrying burdens you never asked for and wisdom you didn't earn the conventional way. You know things without knowing how you know them. You've seen shadows in people who smile. You've walked into rooms and felt the energy shift. You are not crazy. You are spiritually awake. And that dream, that was a heavenly heads up. See? The thing about prophetic dreams is that they bypass your ego. They go under the radar of logic and land directly in your spirit. You can dismiss a gut feeling during the day. You can talk yourself out of intuition. But in the dream realm, you are open, vulnerable, exposed to the messages your conscious mind keeps trying to filter. And that's why God chose then, when your body was still, and your soul could finally receive without interference. Now, let's get one thing clear. This isn't fear-based. This is faith-based. The warning wasn't to scare you. It was to prepare you. Because what's coming will shake foundations. And while most people will feel blindsided, tossed around like spiritual debris in a storm, you were given advanced notice because you have a role to play in this shift. You're not a spectator. You're a participant, a vessel, a messenger. And if you're listening right now, then you already know deep down that last night's dream was divine. Some of you felt chased in your dream, didn't you? That's not coincidence. That's spiritual warfare breaking through your sleep. The enemy saw your elevation coming and tried to intercept the signal. Others of you saw a flood, a storm, or even silence so loud it screamed. That's not chaos. That's prophetic coding. Water represents cleansing. Storm represents disruption before order. And silence. Silence is often the loudest confirmation that something major is about to change. You see, prophetic dreams are not entertainment. They are assignments. They activate something in you. They mark a before and an after. Before the dream, you might have been coasting, maybe even spiritually tired, distracted by life, struggling with loneliness. But after, you feel alert. You feel seen by something greater. You feel that inner nudge, pay attention. That's not paranoia. That's divine strategy. And make no mistake, Chosen one, your dreams are not like other people's dreams. You carry spiritual weight. What visits you at night isn't just imagination, it's often visitation. And when heaven needs to communicate with its front runners, it comes through the most ancient, powerful channel known to the human soul, the dream realm. Now here's the deeper truth. Many people dismiss their dreams because they don't understand the language. They don't know how to read the symbols, how to feel the frequency behind the form. But you're being trained. You've been having these dreams since you were young. And even when you didn't understand them, they were still shaping you, still preparing you, still reminding your spirit of what it came here to do. That's why so much of what you saw in the dream felt familiar, like you'd been there before, like you were being reminded, not shown, because your soul remembers things your brain cannot. This isn't just about what's coming, and this is about what's awakening. The dream was a trumpet in your spirit, sounding the call for you to remember who you are. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. You are not ordinary. You are not random. You are not lost. You are being positioned. And this dream, it was the signal. The moment that said, get ready. Realign. Refocus. Clear the clutter. Purify your heart. Because you are about to walk into a chapter that requires your full attention, your full obedience, your full authority. No more shrinking, no more doubting, no more questioning your knowing. If it resonated with your spirit, trust it, even if you can't explain it. Especially then. The chosen ones are never given all the pieces at once. You're given enough light to take the next step. And that's all you need. Obedience brings clarity. Movement reveals the mission. So what do you do now? You stay alert. You start journaling those dreams. You pray over them. You ask for discernment. And you listen deeply. Because the Spirit is still speaking. And what's coming next will require you to be spiritually armed, emotionally grounded, and radically aligned with the voice of God. This is your moment of awakening. Don't let it pass you by. Now, let's talk about the language of that dream. Because it wasn't spoken in words. It was spoken in symbols. And that's how heaven speaks to the chosen. Not in paragraphs or commands, but in living imagery, something that bypasses your intellect and goes straight to your spirit. Because the truth is, chosen one, God doesn't speak to you the way He speaks to everyone else. He speaks in code. He speaks in feelings. He speaks through what the world calls strange, but what your soul calls sacred. Think back to what you saw. Was there a specific object that stood out? A person who didn't look familiar, but felt like they carried meaning? Was there a color that dominated the scene? Red, blue, gold? These are not background details. These are messages. Each one crafted with intention, designed to guide you through what's coming. You weren't just having a dream. You were having a spiritual download. Maybe you saw a locked door. That's not just a door. It's a symbol of timing. God saying, not yet. Or maybe you saw fire not destructive, but illuminating. That's revelation. That's God showing you what needs to burn away. Did you hear a voice without seeing a face? That's the angelic realm moving on your behalf. Or did you find yourself standing in the middle of a crowd, yet feeling completely alone? That's a message about your distinction. You are in this world, but never truly of it. You see, one of the hardest truths for the chosen to accept is that your path will always look different, and your dreams will confirm that. Because you're not called to follow the crowd. You're called to decode what others ignore. And that's why you were given that dream last night. Because while others are entertained by sleep, you are being educated by heaven. You might be wondering, why doesn't God just speak clearly, but he does just not in the way the world defines clarity? See, God's clarity doesn't always come with logic. It comes with resonance. You don't have to understand it with your mind. If your spirit recognizes it, that's enough. You were never meant to navigate by sight alone. You were meant to walk by faith. And sometimes, faith looks like waking up from a strange dream and knowing without a doubt that it meant something. Let me tell you a story. You've heard of Joseph, right? The dreamer in the book of Genesis. His entire journey, his betrayal, his rise to power, his purpose was all predicated on a series of dreams. Not just dreams he interpreted for others, but dreams he received himself. When Joseph shared his first dream, even his own family didn't believe him. They mocked him. They misunderstood him. But that didn't make the dream any less true. Because the truth of the dream wasn't about when it happened, it was about what it set in motion. And that's exactly what's happening with you. This dream didn't just show you something, it activated something. A new season, a shift in the spirit, a change in your role. It's like a secret mission being handed to a soldier in the night. And even if no one else saw it, you did. That means you've been chosen to carry the message, even if you don't fully understand it yet. Your spirit is already preparing for what's ahead. And there's something else. Often, these dreams come right before breakthrough or right before battle. It's either an invitation or a warning. Sometimes both. But it's never random. The divine doesn't waste a single symbol. That snake you saw, it wasn't just about fear, it was about deception being unmasked. That broken bridge, it's about connections that are no longer aligned with your destiny. That blinding light, that was confirmation. That was heaven saying, I'm with you. And here's the beautiful thing, once you start interpreting these signs, you'll notice the language showing up outside the dream too. Repeating numbers. Songs that speak directly to your situation. A stranger saying something you just prayed about the night before. This is the pattern of God. He speaks in waves. And if your spirit is tuned in, you'll hear him not just in dreams, but in everything. So I want you to do something powerful. I want you to revisit that dream. Not just with your memory, but with your discernment. Ask the Spirit to highlight what you missed. Sit in silence. Let the symbols rise to the surface. Write down what you felt when you saw each scene. Don't dismiss anything. That hallway, that light, that sound. Every detail is a thread. And when you start pulling on them, you'll see how deeply it was all woven together. This is spiritual training. This is decoding heaven's frequency. And you were born for this. You've always had the gift of knowing, even when others didn't understand it. As a child, maybe you had too much imagination, or you were too sensitive. But now you see it wasn't imagination. It was initiation. It was the early signs of your anointing. And those dreams, they were always a part of your divine education. So many people walk through life numb, never questioning, never listening, never wondering why they feel so disconnected. But not you. You're awake. You're sensitive to the shift. You feel it in your bones when something is off. You feel it in your chest when something's about to change. That's not anxiety. That's alignment. That's the Spirit giving you a head start. You are a watcher, a spiritual decoder, a frontline receiver. And these dreams are God's way of keeping you ahead of the curve, because the enemy always wants to move in shadows. But God illuminates, God exposes, God equips. And when He gives a dream, He's not just showing you what's coming. He's showing you who you are. So lean in. Chosen one. Don't dismiss the symbols. Don't silence the knowing. This is a holy conversation between heaven and your soul. And if you're willing to pay attention, if you're willing to interpret the message, you won't just be prepared for the shift. You'll be empowered by it. You're probably asking yourself, why now? Why this dream? On this night, when everything around you still seems quiet, or maybe even chaotic. But that's the divine pattern. Chosen one. Heaven doesn't wait for things to settle down in the natural before it sends a message. It speaks when it's urgent in the spiritual. And the urgency of your dream is confirmation that something is shifting and you're being called into radical alignment before that shift fully arrives. See, timing in the Spirit is not like time on a clock. It's not about minutes or hours, it's about readiness. It's about seasons. And last night, your soul was told the season has changed. Maybe nothing around you looks different yet. But your spirit knows. You can feel it. Like a change in the air before the storm hits. Like the stillness that comes before something breaks open. That dream wasn't just symbolic, it was a marker. A spiritual timestamp. It was heaven saying from this moment forward, you cannot afford to live misaligned. That's why some of you have been feeling the pull, like you're being asked to let go of certain things, even though they don't seem bad. Certain relationships, certain habits, even certain thought patterns. It's not coincidence. That's spiritual refinement. Because in order to walk into what's coming, you can't carry what no longer serves your elevation. You're being asked to rise lighter, cleaner, clearer, aligned. Think about it like this: if you're on a runway preparing for takeoff, you can't bring everything from your past flight. You've got to offload the excess weight, recalibrate, refuel. The same goes for your spirit. That dream last night was a final boarding call. A divine nudge to say, get in position. The wind is about to shift, and here's what makes this moment sacred. You're not being called to prepare through panic. You're being called to prepare through obedience. That means listening when the Spirit says, cut off that conversation. Obeying when your intuition says, spend more time in silence. Honoring the message even when your mind doesn't understand it yet. Because alignment isn't about logic. It's about trust. It's about moving when God says move, even when the road ahead looks invisible. That's why the dream had so many emotional layers. It wasn't just about what you saw. It was about what you felt. Maybe you felt peace in a place that looked dark. That's God's way of saying, I'm there with you, even in what seems uncertain. Maybe you felt urgency without fear. That's heaven stirring your readiness. Or maybe you felt the need to run, hide, or rise. Those are directional cues. And your body might not know what to do with them yet. But your spirit does. You've already begun the shift internally. Do you know what happens when a chosen one obeys the call to align? Reality starts bending. Doors open that were once locked. Favor increases. Discernment sharpens. But also, resistance shows up. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's proof that the atmosphere recognizes your movement. And when a chosen one starts aligning with divine timing, the enemy takes notice. That's why the resistance might intensify right after the dream. It's a distraction, an attempt to shake your confidence. But you, chosen one, must remain grounded. Now let me tell you something important. Alignment is not about being perfect. It's about being available. It's about saying, God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust you enough to follow the rhythm you've placed in my soul. That kind of surrender creates openings in the spirit realm. That kind of obedience echoes louder than any prayer said out of habit. And you might feel alone in this. You might feel like no one around you understands why you're suddenly pulling away from certain people, or why you're up at 3 a.m. writing down symbols from a dream. But don't forget, Noah looked crazy building that ark in dry weather. Moses looked strange talking to a bush. Esther had to hide her identity until the right moment. Every aligned soul looks misaligned to a world that's spiritually asleep. Your job is not to explain yourself to everyone. Your job is to stay aligned with the one who called you. That dream, it wasn't a general broadcast. It was a personalized invitation, a coded message that only your spirit could fully receive. And the reason it came to you is because you have the capacity to interpret it, to act on it, to carry its weight with reverence. Don't miss that. This wasn't for everyone. It wasn't just spiritual noise. This was sacred instruction. And like all instruction from heaven, it comes with both responsibility and reward. The responsibility, stay aligned even when it's uncomfortable. The reward, you'll be prepared when the shift hits, because the shift is coming. And maybe part of you already knows what it's about. Maybe the dream confirmed something you've been sensing for weeks now, a move, a relationship ending, a calling to change careers, or step into a new level of leadership. If your spirit is nodding right now, believe it. God uses dreams to echo what He's already been whispering during the day. And when He repeats Himself, it's not because He wasn't clear the first time, it's because He's emphasizing what matters most. So pause for a moment. Inhale deeply. Let your spirit settle. Because this isn't just a message, it's a mirror. Look into it. What are you being asked to let go of? What are you being called to embrace? What area of your life needs realignment so that when the shift comes, you're not caught off guard, but already in position? Remember, Chosen one. Radical alignment requires radical honesty, not with others, with yourself. It's time to strip away the illusions. Time to stop making excuses for what you know doesn't belong in your next chapter. That dream came to slice through the fog, to pull you out of autopilot, to position you as a vessel of clarity in a world drowning in confusion. You were not born for average. You were born for assignments, and every divine assignment begins with divine alignment. You felt it, didn't you? Even before your eyes opened. Your spirit already knew something had shifted. The air around you felt charged. The dream was over, but its energy remained. Chosen one. What you experienced was not just symbolic. It was a tremor, a vibration in the spirit realm. Because before anything manifests in the physical, it always begins with movement in the unseen. Your dream was evidence that the spirit realm is shaking. And when the spirit realm shakes, the material world must eventually respond. This is why so many chosen ones experience what the world calls anxiety, insomnia, or restlessness, when in truth, their spirits are picking up on activity that hasn't reached the surface yet. You weren't tossing and turning last night for no reason. You were receiving. The unseen is always speaking. And right now, it is thundering. Here's what most people miss when a major shift is coming, whether personal or global. It is first revealed to those who are spiritually sensitive. You, the forerunners, the dreamers, the ones with spiritual radar tuned to heaven's frequency. And the reason you're feeling the rumble before others do is because you were born to be a signal, not just to receive, but to relay, to carry warning, wisdom, and guidance for those who are still blind to the signs. And that's the part that can feel so isolating. You feel things nobody else around you is talking about. You sense changes before they make the news. You wake up from dreams that shake you to your core, while others roll over and return to their sleep. But understand this, that isolation isn't punishment. It's positioning. Let me take you back for a moment. Think about Elisha in the Bible, the prophet who saw what no one else saw, while everyone else panicked at the sight of enemy armies surrounding the city. Elisha remained calm. Why? Because his eyes were open to the spiritual reality behind the natural threat. He saw angels' flames of divine protection surrounding the battlefield. He saw what others could not. And it changed everything. That's the weight you carry too. You don't just dream. You see. And what you saw last night wasn't just for your comfort. It was insight. It was a glance into the blueprint of what's unfolding in the realm of spirit. That thunder you felt in your chest, that sense of urgency without explanation. That's the evidence. The shaking has already started. And you're not being given a front row seat for entertainment. You're being summoned. Here's what I need you to understand deeply when the spirit realm begins to shake. It means God is realigning things. People are being moved. Assignments are shifting. Hidden truths are surfacing. Old structures are crumbling. It may look chaotic to the natural eye, but to those in the spirit, it is divine reordering. And the reason it visited you in your dream is because you are meant to move with it, not be swept away by it. That's why the dream may have felt unsettling. Maybe you saw the ground cracking open or buildings collapsing. Maybe you were flying, but couldn't land. Maybe there was a voice telling you to run. These are not nightmares. These are metaphors for what's coming undone in the unseen. The old is being broken so the new can be birthed. And you, chosen one, are part of the birthing team. Now let's be real, birthing anything is painful. It stretches you. It requires focus. It demands you push past comfort. But here's the thing. What you're birthing isn't just for you. It's for your bloodline. It's for the people attached to your calling. And that's why the dream came with such force. Heaven doesn't whisper when it's time to deliver. Heaven roars. So don't be surprised if your life starts shifting suddenly. Don't panic if people start walking away, if opportunities fall through, or if your plans seem to unravel. It's not sabotage. It's alignment. The shaking is not punishment. It's positioning. When the foundations move in the unseen, everything on top must realign. And if you've been holding on to what no longer fits your purpose, this shaking is your grace. It's God's way of saying, let it fall. I'm making room for what's real. But listen closely, there's a choice here. You can either resist the shaking and stay stuck in what was, or you can surrender and ride the wave of what's becoming. And make no mistake, chosen one, this isn't the time for hesitation. The shaking has already begun. Your dream was the trumpet, the call to attention, and now you must move. What does that look like? It looks like cutting off distractions, anything that dulls your spiritual senses. It looks like fasting, praying, listening. It looks like diving deeper into your purpose, even if you don't have a clear roadmap. It looks like trusting the tremble in your chest more than the voices of the crowd. Because the crowd won't understand this season. They're not supposed to. They didn't get the dream. You did. That means you carry the responsibility. And yes, it's heavy. But you were born for this. You were chosen because of your strength, because of your sensitivity, because God knew your spirit could handle the message, even if your mind didn't yet understand it. So here's what you do now. Stand firm. Anchor yourself in truth. Revisit the dream with reverence. Ask God to show you the deeper meaning. Begin preparing, spiritually and mentally, for what's ahead. Because you are not just a receiver. You are a revealer, a warrior in the unseen, a vessel of divine insight. And when the shaking becomes visible, when the world starts asking questions, you'll already have the answer. Because heaven already told you. This dream wasn't just a heads up. It was a calling, a direct summons to rise into your position. Chosen one. You weren't warned because you're weak. You were warned because you're essential. Because the Spirit is placing its most trusted warriors on the front lines. And your name was among them. Heaven never wastes revelation on those who will ignore it. That dream was a divine enlistment, a signal that the spiritual battlefield is active and your presence is required. You felt it, didn't you? That unshakable knowing. Even if you couldn't explain it in words. You knew something had shifted. That's the signature of a spiritual summons. It doesn't arrive in your intellect first, it arrives in your soul. And when it does, the illusions begin to fall away. You start noticing things you didn't before. Disguises start unraveling. You see agendas behind smiles. You sense manipulation behind compliments. It's not paranoia. It's discernment. And that dream was confirmation that your discernment is being heightened for a reason. You're not being asked to fight every battle, but you are being asked to take your position, to stop dimming your light, to stop waiting for permission, to stop trying to explain spiritual things to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You're being called forward because the terrain ahead will need voices that carry clarity, not noise. Light, not just charisma. Authority, not just opinion. And your dream last night was heaven's way of handing you your spiritual orders. It might feel intimidating. It might feel like you're not qualified. But hear me, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And He's been qualifying you through every valley, every loss, every strange season where you felt hidden. The rejection, the misunderstanding, the isolation, it was all preparation. Because the ones God calls to the front line are not always the ones with the loudest voices. They're the ones with the clearest hearts. You might not feel ready, but chosen ones rarely do. Look at Gideon called while hiding in a winepress. Look at David anointed while forgotten in the field. Look at Esther raised in silence until it was time to speak. And you've been hidden, honed, humbled, and now it's time. Your dream showed you more than a warning. It showed you a glimpse of your role. Maybe you saw yourself leading others through chaos. Maybe you were standing on higher ground, pointing the way. Maybe you were silent while others panicked, and yet everyone looked to you for calm. These were not random details. These were signs of your spiritual assignment. You've been given influence in the spirit before it's visible in the natural. You've been chosen to carry something sacred, and now is the moment to start stewarding it like you know what it is. Chosen one. Do you know why so many people can't relate to you? Because you were never meant to blend in. You were marked, set apart, and now you're being activated. The shaking we talked about earlier. That's not just external, it's internal too. Your spirit is awakening in new dimensions. Things that once felt comfortable now feel heavy. Places that used to excite you now feel hollow. That's the shift. You're being recalibrated for purpose. And yes, the opposition will come. When you step forward in spiritual power, resistance will try to meet you head on. But here's the good news, it's not personal. It's positional. The moment you step into your assignment, the enemy recognizes the threat. But you don't need to fear that. You've already been equipped. That dream wasn't just a warning about the storm, it was a revelation of your armor. Pay attention to what you carried in the dream. Were you holding a torch? That's illumination. A sword? That's truth. Were you cloaked in white or surrounded by a light that others couldn't see? That's divine covering. These are not fantasies. These are clues. Every chosen one receives tools specific to their mission. You were given yours symbolically, but they are real, and it's time to use them. And let me speak directly to your heart, because I know how lonely this can feel. It's hard to be the only one in the room who sees what's coming. It's heavy to carry insight when others mock it or dismiss it. But you are not alone. There are others like you positioned in different cities, nations, and dimensions of influence. The remnant, the few, the faithful. And while you may not always see them, heaven is orchestrating their movement. Just like yours, you don't need an audience to be effective. You need obedience. And the moment you start walking in your authority boldly, humbly, consistently, you'll notice the shift around you. People may not understand it, but they'll feel it. Atmospheres will change when you walk in. Conversations will shift. Even your silence will carry weight. Because the anointing doesn't need volume, it needs presence. This is your time to take position. Not with ego, not with pride, but with quiet certainty. With reverence for the mission you carry. With full awareness that your dream wasn't just about what's coming. It was about what's already in you. You were shown what you were shown because you have the capacity to hold it. Don't dismiss the weight of that truth. So now what you begin to walk differently. You listen deeper. You move with purpose. You pray with fire. You release what no longer fits and embrace what feels unfamiliar but resonant. Because every great move of God begins with someone saying yes before they have all the details. Chosen one, this is your yes moment. Heaven has already spoken. The dream was the call. Now let your life be the answer. Now we need to talk about something critical. Something the dream hinted at, but your spirit already knows there's a cost to ignoring the signal. Not just a delay, not just a detour, there's a cost. When the spirit goes out of its way to speak to you, especially in the sacred language of dreams, it is not casual. It is divine urgency. And to overlook that kind of encounter is to risk spiritual disconnection, misalignment, and walking blindly into what was meant to be navigated with grace and foresight. Let's be clear, God doesn't send warnings because He's angry. He sends them because He loves, because He protects, because He sees what's around the corner and wants you prepared, not panicked. But chosen ones are often so used to warfare, so used to heaviness, that they grow numb to the signs. That's why this dream came the way it did, vivid, specific, emotional, because heaven needed to pierce through the noise. This wasn't just a night vision. This was a wake-up call. Now imagine for a moment what happens when a chosen one silences their own spirit, when they brush off the message, when they convince themselves it was just a dream and carry on as if nothing sacred transpired in the night. The spirit retreats. The clarity becomes fog. And you begin walking through a battlefield without your armor, not because it wasn't given, but because it wasn't recognized. You see, the more you ignore the divine promptings, the more dulled your spiritual senses become. It's like tuning out a frequency until you can no longer hear it at all. And the enemy counts on that. He counts on your exhaustion, on your second-guessing, on your desire to go back to sleep. Because if he can't destroy you, he'll distract you. He'll lull you into comfort and routine, making you think obedience can wait until tomorrow. But chosen one, your dream didn't come for tomorrow. It came for now. And let's go deeper. Obedience doesn't always look dramatic. It's not always quitting your job or moving cities overnight. Sometimes obedience is quiet. It's deleting that message you know you shouldn't send. It's waking up 10 minutes earlier to sit in stillness. It's saying no to an invitation that looks good but feels off. It's choosing discernment over distraction. These are the small hinges that open large spiritual doors. Let me give you a powerful truth. The enemy fears an obedient chosen one more than a loud one. Because obedience is power. Obedience turns revelation into reality. It takes the message of the dream and births it into action. And when a chosen one starts walking in obedience, even small, quiet obedience, the atmosphere around them begins to shift. Remember Jonah called to deliver a message, given clear instructions, but he ran the other way. And what happened? A storm, a reroute, isolation in the belly of something dark. But even then, God used the delay to deepen the message. Jonah still reached Nineveh. But imagine how much smoother it could have been had he obeyed from the start. Your dream was your Nineveh moment. Your chance to say yes without the detour. This is about trust. Do you trust the message enough to move, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't make sense, even when the people around you are still asleep? The cost of ignoring the dream isn't just external, it's internal. You begin to feel misaligned, disoriented, spiritually sluggish. You feel off, but you can't explain why. That's because your soul is out of sync with the message it was given. Your body is walking one way, while your spirit was shown another. That dissonance creates unrest. But the moment you begin to obey, even imperfectly, peace returns. The fog lifts. Clarity flows again. Don't miss the grace in this chosen one. Because even if you've missed signs in the past, even if you've dismissed dreams before, this one came as a reset, a reroute. It came with the weight of the moment baked into its symbols. It came wrapped in mercy. And that's the kind of God we serve, one who warns us before the battle, equips us before the trial, and gives us chance after chance to realign. But make no mistake, the window is open now. And spiritual obedience has an expiration date. Not because God gives up on you, but because your calling is connected to timing. You were born into this generation for a reason. You had that dream in this season for a reason. There are people assigned to your voice, your obedience, your light. And if you ignore the signal, they suffer too. That's the sobering truth of chosenness. It's never just about you. And yes, obedience is costly. It might cost you relationships. It might cost you comfort. It might cost you explanations you wish you had. But it will never cost you your purpose. It will secure it. And in a world where people trade their divine identity for temporary applause, obedience is your anchor. So what now? You listen again. You revisit the dream not with fear, but with reverence. You sit with God and ask, "What do you want me to do?" And when you hear that quiet whisper, that inner nudge, that sacred instruction, you move without overthinking, without needing confirmation from those who didn't receive the dream. Because your obedience is your protection. Your alignment is your armor. and your destiny is too sacred to be delayed by hesitation. Chosen one, this is your moment to prove that you heard what heaven said and you believed it enough to act. Let's talk about authority. Because while your dream may have felt mysterious, even unsettling, it carried something far greater than just a warning. It carried empowerment. And you need to know this. You are not entering the coming shift powerless or unprotected. You were shown what's coming because you already carry what is needed to withstand it. That dream was not only a message, it was a transfer, a spiritual activation. You were given authority. But here's the challenge, too. Many chosen ones don't recognize their authority. You've spent years being overlooked, misunderstood, rejected, doubted, and dismissed. And slowly, whether you realized it or not, you began to internalize that treatment. You started questioning your own discernment. You began shrinking around people who didn't see you. But last night's dream, that was heaven's way of reminding you, you carry weight in the spirit. Think about it. You weren't a passive observer in that dream. Even if you felt uncertain, you were moving. You were watching. You were being shown something others couldn't see. That's not coincidence. That's a sign of spiritual positioning. God doesn't give front row seats to battles to those who are weak. He gives them to those who are warriors. And yes, you may not feel like a warrior in the traditional sense. But spiritual battles are not fought with muscle. They're fought with authority. Authority is not volume. It's not charisma. It's not popularity. It's presence. It's alignment. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who sent you. When you walk into a room carrying divine instruction, even the atmosphere recognizes you before people do. And that's why the enemy has been attacking your identity. Because if you ever fully realize the authority you carry, the enemy loses ground he's occupied for far too long. Let me give you a picture. Imagine being handed a sword, but never unsheathing it. Imagine walking through battlefields with the armor of God on, but treating yourself like a civilian. That's what happens when chosen ones forget who they are. They get hit by darts they were built to deflect. They stay silent when they were called to speak. But your dream was heaven, placing that sword back in your hand. Not for violence, but for truth. Not to harm, but to cut through deception. To stand firm in chaotic times and anchor those around you in clarity. There was power in that dream. Whether it came as a flood, a storm, a voice, or a vision embedded inside it, was permission. Permission to stop apologizing for your sensitivity. Permission to stop downplaying your intuition. Permission to stand tall in your knowing, even when it isolates you. Because isolation isn't always punishment, it's often preparation. And authority always requires preparation. You remember Jesus in the wilderness, don't you? Before his public ministry ever began, before miracles, before teaching, he was led by the Spirit into isolation. Why? Because authority is forged in the secret place. It's refined in silence. And that's where you've been. That's what your dream confirmed. You haven't been forgotten. You've been fortified. Maybe that's why you saw fire in your dream. Fire doesn't come to entertain. It comes to transform. Maybe you were running in the dream but never felt tired. That's endurance. Maybe you heard your name spoken with weight. That's identity being reinstated. You are not an accident. You are not guessing your way through life. You are moving through layers of divine instruction, and now it's time to own your role. Chosen one. You are not at the mercy of this shift. You were born for this shift. You don't need to scramble when the world starts spinning. You've already been given the keys. Authority means you get to speak peace into chaos. You get to discern when others are confused. You get to bind what needs to be bound and release what needs to be released. Not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned. And here's the most humbling part of it all. Your authority is not just for you. It's for those assigned to you. Family members, friends, strangers who are about to cross your path. There are people who will survive this next season because of your presence. Because you walked in your spiritual identity when everyone else was looking for external answers. Because you believed what God said to you when no one else could confirm it. That's how spiritual legacy is built. Not through loud declarations, but through quiet, consistent obedience to the whisper of God. Through a life that says, I trust what I saw in that dream more than I trust the noise around me. And if you've been doubting lately, if you've been wondering whether you're strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough to carry this mantle, let me remind you of something sacred. God does not call perfect vessels. He calls willing ones. The fact that you're listening to this now, leaning in, seeking confirmation, is evidence that your heart is open. And that's all He needs. A heart that says yes. So here's what you do now. You begin to declare over yourself what heaven already confirmed in the dream. Say it out loud. I am chosen. I carry divine authority. I am covered. I am equipped. I am ready. These are not just affirmations. They're activations. They realign your frequency with heaven's. And remember, chosen one authority doesn't mean the road gets easy. But it does mean you walk with assurance. It means when the winds howl, you don't fold, you anchor. When fear knocks, you answer with faith. When confusion rises, you respond with clarity. That's the power you hold, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. Last night's dream wasn't just revelation, it was a mantle. And now it's in your hands. It's already begun. The shift you saw in the dream, those tremors of change that shook your spirit while the world slept, they're not coming. They're here. You felt it in the silence. You've sensed it in the way old things no longer fit. Old conversations fall flat, and old patterns keep breaking down. That dream wasn't a forecast, it was a confirmation. And now, chosen one. It's time to walk forward like someone who has seen. You're not who you were before that dream. And you're not meant to go back to that version of yourself. Because the dream peeled something back. It showed you that your spirit was already preparing long before your mind caught up. And now, you stand at the threshold of a season that demands not just your belief, but your becoming. Let's recall what's already unfolded in this journey. You received the dream not as a bystander, but as a vessel. It was encoded with heaven's language, meant for your spirit to recognize. You were shown what others weren't, because you were always meant to lead in silence before leading out loud. Your alignment was called into focus. The shaking in the spirit was revealed as real. The front line was set, and your position was marked. You were warned, not to panic, but to prepare. And in that preparation, you were given authority, not to boast, but to protect, not to impress, but to impact. And that impact, it starts now. It starts when you stop questioning your intuition and start honoring your knowing. It starts when you choose peace over panic, clarity over chaos. It starts when you no longer wait for the world to validate your call, because heaven already did. Look around you. Things are already moving. People are revealing their true hearts. Circumstances are pushing you to let go of what's no longer aligned. Everything that seemed delayed is now coming full circle, and it's happening fast. The atmosphere has changed. And because you were willing to listen, to receive, to obey, you are ready. Ready doesn't mean comfortable. Ready means positioned. Ready means your oil is filled. Your eyes are open. Your ears are tuned. You're walking with discernment, not distraction. That's what separates the chosen from the crowd. Not perfection, but preparation. And your preparation came through a dream. Remember what we said before, not everyone gets the warning. Not everyone sees the signs. This is not for the masses. This is for the remnant. The few who are brave enough to trust what their spirit knows over what their eyes can see. You are part of that remnant. The ones who move quietly, who fast in secret, who pray without applause, who listen without needing to be heard. You are the reason light still walks among shadows. You are the reason truth keeps burning through the fog. And if you ever doubted your significance, let this be your final confirmation. Heaven revealed the shift to you because heaven trusts you to handle it. So take a deep breath. Hold your head high. You don't need to scramble. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain your obedience to people who are still asleep. Just walk. Walk in faith. Walk in wisdom. Walk in the understanding that you were prepared for this moment, long before you knew what it would demand. And when the chaos hits, because it will remember the dream, go back to that still moment in the night where God whispered through symbols and sensations. Go back to the feeling in your chest, the clarity in your soul. That was your blueprint. That was your compass. Use it, chosen one. This is no longer about waiting. This is about walking. Walking in divine timing. Walking in spiritual maturity. Walking in the knowing that even if others don't see it, God already confirmed it. And now, before we close, I want you to receive this. Slow down for a moment. Let the world fall silent around you. Let the distractions dissolve, the noise fade. This moment is sacred. This is your confirmation. You are seen. You are covered. You are chosen. That dream was not a fluke. It was not imagination. It was heaven breathing direction into your night. It was God reaching into your rest to say, "You are mine." And I am preparing you for something only you can carry. Every symbol was chosen. Every image hand-picked. Your spirit knew it before your mind could name it. And now, the dream has become a doorway, a threshold into the next dimension of your calling. You're not late. You're not behind. You're right on time. The confusion, the warfare, the waiting, it all shaped you. It built the strength in you that couldn't be taught, only forged. And now, that strength is needed. You are the light in someone's darkness, the calm in someone's storm, the living proof that God still speaks, still moves, still chooses. And you were not picked at random. You were marked from birth. So hold your peace, guard your light, and trust what you've been shown. Don't beg for signs when you've already been given a vision. Don't fear the unknown when the Spirit has already walked ahead of you. You are covered. You are armed. You are aligned. The shift has begun, and you are ready. And if this word spoke to your spirit, if something inside you was stirred, confirmed, awakened, then share it. Speak life into someone else. You're not the only one listening. Subscribe, like, leave your testimony below. Let your voice be heard by those who need it most. And above all else, may peace be upon you. May clarity surround you. And may the God who gave you the dream give you the courage to walk it out. God bless you.